I love it.
It's mine, right?
No.
I like all of a sudden it's coming down to, it's mine again.
Pulled over 1 ounce of raw gold from a single bedrock crack, 40 foot underground. In a tunnel, he spent 7 years digging by hand. 1 ounce, 1 pan, over $2,000. But here's what makes this discovery truly massive. Jeff isn't some lucky hobbyist who stumbled onto treasure. You guys want to find gold in old abandoned mines? I'm going to teach you the skills you need to know so you can find these old abandoned mines and be successful at getting high-grade gold out of them every time. He's a certified geologist who used science to predict exactly where that gold would be hiding, then proved everyone wrong who said he was wasting his time. The drift mine that produced this gold, most prospectors said it would never work. The location, an area the old-timers supposedly worked out over a century ago. Remember that these are the hardest to do when you start curving because a lot of the variables and the geometry, everything changes. You better make sure all your cuts are right because everything might look right on paper, but when you get down here, everything's different. The method crawling through a tunnel so tight he could barely turn around with thousands of pounds of earth pressing down above his head. And that ounce, music, plus recovery wasn't even his best day. What you're about to discover is how Jeff combined 40 years of geological expertise with pure determination to make gold discoveries that most people thought were impossible. By the end, you'll understand, music, exactly why his approach works. This is the story the title promised. Let's get into it. The man behind the discovery. Jeff Williams started prospecting after a trip to Alaska in 1995. Hey guys, it's your favorite gold miner, prospector, and geologist, Jeff Williams. Now, today I thought we'd do something different, and we'll be using a chainsaw to do it. One flash of color in his gold pan, that unmistakable yellow glint against the black sand, and he was hooked for life. That single moment sparked an obsession that would consume the next 3 decades and lead him places most prospectors would never dare to go. Gold is where you find it, music, Jeff says. There's always another piece of gold out there. You just have to know where to look. He backed up that philosophy with music, credentials most YouTube prospectors can't match. Jeff earned his geology degree and spent over 40 years in mining and mineral exploration, working claims across the American West. He learned to read landscapes the way other people read books. When he looks at a hillside, he doesn't see dirt and rocks. He sees millions of years of geological history written in the layers. Ancient, music, rivers that haven't flowed for millennia. Volcanic intrusions that superheated groundwater and deposited minerals in their wake. More importantly, he sees exactly where all that history trapped gold. In 2016, Jeff launched his YouTube channel, Ask Jeff, Music, Williams, to share what decades of fieldwork had taught him. His wife, Slim, joined him as a full partner in both the prospecting and the filming. She wasn't just along for the ride. Slim had been prospecting alongside Jeff for nearly 2 decades, developing her own expertise and music techniques that complemented his geological approach. Together, they built a community of over 250,000 subscribers hungry for real knowledge from someone who'd actually done the work. Their videos blend education with adventure, teaching viewers how to find gold while documenting the real discoveries that prove the method's work. I'm going to teach you the stratigraphy of this down here so you understand the different layers and why they are there. And while we're at it, we're going to do some metal detecting for gold nuggets. But the channel was never just about teaching theory. It was about proving on camera that massive gold deposits are still out there for anyone willing to learn the science and put in the effort. The drift mine would become his ultimate proof. The 7-year dig. The project started with a geological hunch. Jeff identified a location in Arizona's Lost Basin Range, where his analysis told him ancient river gravels lay buried beneath the surface. The old-timers had worked this area during the gold rush era, pulled what they could from the creek beds, and moved on. They never knew what was waiting below. The old-timers left tons of gold behind, Jeff explains. They didn't have metal detectors. They didn't understand geology the way we do now. They worked the easy surface stuff and quit. That's opportunity for people like us. So Jeff started digging. Not a test pit, not a shallow trench. A full drift mine burrowing horizontally into the hillside, chasing the gold-bearing gravels that historic miners couldn't reach. The project would consume the next 7 years of his life. The science behind his approach comes down to one fundamental principle. Gold is extremely heavy. At 19.3 times heavier than water and 3 times heavier than iron, gold sinks to the lowest possible point. It falls through gravel until it hits bedrock. It gets trapped in cracks and crevices. It collects behind natural obstructions that stop its downward movement. This is exactly why the old-timers missed so much. They worked surface gravels with picks and SLES boxes, never penetrating deep enough to reach the bedrock traps, where heavy gold had concentrated over thousands of years. Jeff's geological training told him to look for the contact zone where ancient river gravels met the underlying bedrock. That's where the gold would be hiding. And his analysis of surface indicators, the iron-stained soil, the composition of exposed gravels told him this location had serious potential. Slim ran surface operations while Jeff worked underground. She processed material through the dry washer, tracked what each tunnel section produced, and maintained detailed records that would prove whether Jeff's analysis was right. She developed her own technique for reading concentrates, a method of feeling pan weight distribution that let her catch gold Jeff sometimes missed. "Someone's got to keep this crazy man organized," she joked during one filming session. "Get the gold. Give it up for Slim," Jeff says in nearly every video. It's recognition that without her contributions, the drift mine wouldn't exist. Now, in the 7.5 years that we've been mining this drift mine, we've pulled out not ounces, but pounds of gold. The tunnel grew foot by foot. Timber supports went in. Bucket after bucket came out. Months passed. Then years. The moment everything almost ended. 3 years into the project, the tunnel nearly killed him. Jeff was working alone in a newly excavated section 40 feet from the entrance when he heard the sound every underground miner dreads. A low groan from the timber supports above his head. The ground was softer than his geological surveys predicted. Loose material was pressing down on the wooden sets, and one support beam had started to bow under the pressure. "I froze," Jeff recalled. "You don't run underground. Running causes vibrations. Vibrations bring down ceilings." I just stood there, headlamp pointed up, watching that beam bend. Dust filtered through cracks in the overhead, lagging. Small rocks rattled loose and bounced off his hard hat. The timber groaned again, louder. 40 feet of tunnel between him and daylight. Thousands of pounds of earth pressing down. One wrong move and 7 years of work would become his grave. For 30 seconds, that felt like 30 minutes. Jeff didn't breathe. Then silence. He backed out inch by inch, testing each step until he reached stable ground. Behind him, music, rocks continued falling from the compromised ceiling. "That section cost us 3 months, Jeff said later. "I had to bring in new timber, redesign the support system, reinforce everything from the entrance forward. But it taught me something important. There are no shortcuts underground. You do it right or you don't come home." When Slim saw him emerge covered in dust and shaking, she didn't ask what happened. She handed him water and said what she always said when things got hard. "Go hard or go home, baby." That's always been the deal. The massive discovery. The breakthrough came in year 6. Jeff had pushed past the dangerous music section into virgin bedrock. The gravel composition was changing in ways that excited him. Black sand concentrations were spiking dramatically. The material coming out of the tunnel was showing all the signs his geological training had taught him to recognize. Every indicator pointed toward a significant gold trap somewhere ahead. Then his metal detector screamed. Not the faint chirp of a small target, a full sustained signal that made Jeff's heart pound, music, in the cramped darkness. Jeff dropped to his knees in the 3-foot-high tunnel. Temperature underground stays around 60 degrees year-round, but sweat ran down his face as, music, he positioned himself to work. His headlamp cut through the dust, illuminating a crack in the bedrock that ran diagonally across the tunnel floor. This was exactly the kind of natural trap where heavy gold would accumulate over thousands of years. This round river rock. Oh, isn't that looking good? And you can see all the bedding planes in there for where all this has been laid down thousands upon thousands of years ago. Big rocks, big gold, little rocks, little gold. He worked the crack with his music pick, pulling out compacted gravel and clay, feeling the resistance change as he got deeper. The detector kept screaming. Whatever was down there, it was substantial. Then his pick hit music, something that didn't feel like rock. The first piece came out attached to quartz, chunky, yellow, unmistakable gold that caught his headlamp and seemed to glow in the underground darkness. Then another piece, then a third. The crack was loaded. Jeff scraped out everything he could reach, working methodically despite his excitement, loading it all into his gold pan. Then he began the slow crawl back toward daylight. 20 minutes to cover 40 feet on hands and knees, gold pan balanced, carefully ahead of him, not daring to spill a single grain of what he'd recovered. When he emerged into Arizona sun, Slim was waiting with the digital scale. She'd heard the detector through the tunnel entrance. She knew something big had happened. "Let me see it," she said. "Show me what's in that pan." Jeff tilted the pan. Afternoon light caught the gold, and both of them went silent. Chunky placer pieces that would make any prospector's heart stop. Delicate wire gold twisted into spirals. The kind of crystalline formations that collectors pay premium prices for. Fine gold mixed with black sand. Music, more than Jeff had ever recovered from a single location underground. Slim's hands trembled slightly as she positioned the scale. 20 years prospecting together. Hundreds of pans processed. And this moment still hit different. The digital readout climbed past half an ounce, past 3/4. Music, final weight 1.2 ounces. One bedrock crack, one pan. Over 2,400 of the current gold prices. "And this is it," Jeff said, voice thick with emotion. 7 years of digging, 3 months rebuilding after that collapse. Everyone who said I was crazy, who said there's no gold left, who said I was wasting my time. Look at this pan and tell me I was wrong. He held up the largest piece, a nugget the size of his thumbnail, still attached to white quartz. "Don't stop digging, music, till you step on gold," he said. "That's what I always tell people. Today, I stepped on gold." Slim wrapped her arms around him, tunnel dust and all. "Gold fever, baby," she said. "We've got it bad. What comes next?" That discovery was just the beginning of what the drift mine would produce. Over the following months, Jeff documented recovery after recovery from Slim's drift mine. His largest single nugget weighed 10.2 g, a beautiful specimen pulled from another bedrock trap deeper in the tunnel. Total production has exceeded several ounces over the years of operation, with gold-bearing material still being processed and new sections still being excavated. He shares pay dirt from the mine